Hey everybody, this is chapters 5 through 8, critical thinking questions. This is going to be chapter 5. First one states, outline the strengths and limitations of classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning in explaining how behaviors are acquired and maintained. I wrote down some strengths to classical conditioning is that by using this type of learning, one can learn to respond to a situation by learning the positive or negatives of that action. And one of the examples I took was in Marine Corps boot camp, for example, a positive classical conditioning response is to be online by the time the drill instructor is done counting down, making sure your rack is straight, ensuring your area is cleaned up, and your neighbors is also cleaned up before the DI gets within the area. Knowing the recruits knowing that if they do all these things right, they're not going to be messed with. There's a healthy chance, they stand a healthy chance of not being picked up on their radar, thus not getting messed with as much throughout the time in boot camp. Some limitations of classical conditioning is that there is really no flexibility in the learning. It's either you get it or you don't. You either learn it or you don't. There is really no middle ground with classical conditioning in what came across to me in the reading. The other limitation that could be is through biological predispositions that could interfere with the classical conditioning is also a limitation. Some strengths about operational conditioning are the positive and negative reinforcement. Although the book talks about prison reform, I tend to disagree with the view on this. I believe they should serve their time, good and hard. I think these programs that let out I know this is getting a little off subject, but these programs that let these offenders off early for doing reading programs or whatever the case may be, I just don't think it's working. I think they need to serve their time long and hard and pay for what they've done. Okay, getting back on point, there's really no middle ground. I'm sorry. Although the book, talked about that, I, however, can attest to positive reinforcement of operant conditioning by making sure that I study more so I receive better grades. I've learned that in the past when I didn't study or research stuff for a meeting that I had the next day, I wasn't as prepared. When I came prepared, I did much better in the presentations at work and got better responses, one from my boss and two from my fellow Marines, my employees. They knew that I was prepared then. And even though it has the word negative in it, I believe the negative reinforcement with an operant conditioning is a strength as well. An example could be a husband that checks in with his wife on a trip. Maybe he's away for a week or whatever, a fishing trip up north, and he's away for a week, and vice, no communication with her at all the whole time. This could be a positive outcome from negative reinforcement in order to keep from hearing from a nagging wife. You check in every once in a while. Some strengths and limitations of observational learning. Our strengths could be, like the book stated, about slowing down when you see someone being pulled over on the side of the road. You likely will slow down too a bit, knowing that the same result could happen to you if you don't. Or if you see somebody or if you see a police officer passing you and you know you don't have your seatbelt on, some people tend to put it on right away. Or if the policeman pulls you over and you don't have your seatbelt on, you maybe put it on then. But regardless, you should always have your seatbelt on. So those are some limitations. Some limitations on this could be maybe someone doesn't get enough exposure to the situation for them. I was thinking to experience observational learning, or someone who is stuck in a hospital bed, basically isolated away from everything but what's inside that room, or maybe tribesmen who live so far away from civilization that they don't get any exposure to situations for them to experience the observational learning. Question number 2 states, the use of behavior modification has been a source of controversy among psychologists and others. Prepare arguments supporting each of these positions. My argument for the first one is behavior modification should be used in society to shape the behaviors of others because the programs that use behavior modifications are highly individualized, and you can spend 100% of your time and efforts with this one subject, knowing that there is no wasted efforts. Also, if a breakthrough happens with that one subject, it could work on the next subject after that and the next subject after that and just snowball from there. In a study, researchers successfully used a behavior modification to stop a 41-year-old man with autism from exhibiting such behaviors in his workplace, thereby enabling him to actually keep his job. Taken from the book, I thought that was a good example of uh, why behavior modification should be used in society. The other side of the argument would be should not be used in society to shape behavior of others because it can disturb these individuals. Taken from the book, I thought that was a great example. Coworkers and supervisors interfere with the performance of their duties, and they could cause them to lose their job. Basically, it could become more of a distraction than it could help them. Is where is the main idea behind that? Why it shouldn't be used in society. And question 3 states, think of a behavior of a friend, family member, or a professor that you would like to change. Using what you know about classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and observational learning, formulate a detailed plan for changing their targeted behavior. First thing I think about is my children. I spend an awful lot of time being a full-time student right now with my children here in the summertime. So what I wrote down was I know that I would like the behavior of my son and daughter to change when it comes to cleaning the house or doing their chores consistently. For the most part, they're good about it. When I ask them to clean up, they usually do it. But there's an inconsistency in there somewhere that needs to be changed. So I wrote down, but I want them to be able to do the chores without me reminding them every single time, or to do it without whining, which is the biggest thing when they do need to get their chores done. So I wrote a positive reinforcement could create a positive outcome of this situation. So instead of saying at the end of the week to receive your chore, treat, or allowance, or whatever it may be that they get, I could reward them right then and there on the spot after they get it done. So more of an instant gratification to them, especially them being 7 and 8 years old. It's something that they understand the concept of getting that reward at the end of the week. But for them, still, I think that instant gratification would suit them a little bit better. The only thing I'm worried about with that, though, is that it could turn into a negative habit for them later in life. With them basically saying, "Hey, I got this accomplished. Where's my reward right now?" So that's my video response for Chapter 5 questions.